I solemnly pledge myself before God and in the presence of this assembly to pass my life in purity and to practice my profession faithfully. I will abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous, and will not take or knowingly administer any harmful drug. I will do all in my power to maintain and elevate the standard of my profession, and will hold in confidence all personal matters committed to my keeping, and all family affairs coming to my knowledge in the practice of my calling. With loyalty will I endeavor to aid the physician in his work, and as a missioner of health, I will dedicate myself to devoted service to human welfare. I still remember the night of the pinning ceremony, the Nightingale Pledge, and the feeling of relief for having completed an arduous 2 years. I was a fresh graduate of my nursing school, excited and proud of all I had accomplished to get to this point. I had passed my NCLEX prior to the pinning ceremony, which had to be delayed due to some rough weather that damaged the recreation center earlier in the month. I couldn't wait to help change the lives of my patients, to do something truly meaningful with my life. Stephen Collins, my instructor, called my name, and I walked from my place in line to the podium. Shaking her hand, I thanked her for her role in my education before stepping back into my spot. I had done it. I was officially a registered nurse licensed by the Board of Nursing. I couldn't help but smile to myself, once more beaming with pride. In a blur, the ceremony concluded, and I found myself in the entryway of the auditorium, awash in a sea of chatter. "Hey, Steve, you should come with us to celebrate." Sarah, one of my classmates, shouted at me from somewhere in the crowd. Grinning, I pushed my way into the crowd of people, working my way to the sound of her voice. "Hey, Sarah, congratulations, we did it," I said. "Yeah, we did. We were fixing to head to the sports bar to celebrate. You should come with us," she said. "You know I'm not a big fan of drinking," I said, chuckling. "That doesn't mean you can't come with us," she replied. "Besides, you could drive us back and save us some cab fare if you don't want to drink." I sighed, smiling, and agreed to go with them. I didn't mind being their chaperone. After all, Sarah had helped me quite a bit in nursing school, so I was happy to return the favor. The night went by in a haze of drinks, laughter, and good food, and before long we were walking back to my car. Once everyone was seated and their seat belts buckled in, I started my car and pulled out of the parking lot onto the main road. Our town was a modest-sized one, with a population of roughly 20,000 people, give or take, so it wasn't uncommon to find the roads deserted in the dead of night. Still, the darkness had an ever-present feeling of unease, one that only abated under the glow of the streetlights. One by one, I dropped our classmates off at their homes, until only Sarah and I remained in the car. She lived a bit out of the way compared to the rest of our class, down a dark and winding road that veered into the country. "Hey," she murmured, leaning closer to me from the passenger seat. "What's up?" I asked, feeling myself blush a little. I had a crush on Sarah, but I never did work up the courage to ask her out on a date. Could she be? "Do you see that building up ahead?" Her voice jolted me from my thoughts, and I found myself thankful my face was obscured by the darkness of night. I looked to where she was pointing. Coming up on the right side of the road was a turnoff to a skilled nursing facility. The building stood out like a sore thumb in comparison to its surroundings. It was the only building for miles, its light pushing away the darkness much in a similar manner to the street lights, although there was something off about the light. It made me cold, causing me to briefly shiver. Its brutalist architecture felt out of place in the sea of green surrounding it, as if it were an affront to nature itself. Lights spilled out from some of the many windows, but most were dark as the night itself. It was shaped like a large rectangle with sharp angles and stood 2 stories in height. A derelict sign in front read New Haven Healthcare, though the bulbs in the letters E, A, and T in healthcare had apparently burned out. The feeling of unease had been replaced with one of dread, as if the sign itself reeked of pure malice. "I'd never work there," she continued. "I hear the working conditions are horrible and that they have a high turnover rate for their staff. It certainly isn't a very welcoming building." If I ever needed rehab, I'd choose somewhere else, I replied. We drove the rest of the way in silence, listening to the radio as I drove her home. After wishing her a good night, I walked back to my car and opened the driver's side door to get in. That's when I noticed a pamphlet lying where Sarah had been sitting. Did she drop it? It was an ad for the building we had driven past on the way here. On it were some nurses and staff smiling in a somewhat uncanny way, standing in front of what looked to be a nurse's station. The text below read, "Now hearing nurses for our night shift team. No experience necessary, we'll train you. Join the New Haven family today. After working here, you'll never want to leave. See below for starting pay and benefits." I began to read through the pamphlet and almost had to pick up my mouth from the ground. That couldn't be right. On top of full benefits, the starting pay for the RN charge nurse position was almost 3 times the rate of the hospital I was planning on applying to. Like many grads, I had a small mountain of student loans that needed to be paid off, and with how much they were paying, it'd only take me a year at most to be debt-free. Hell, I could even buy a nice house on some land, and who knows, maybe ask Sarah out. I folded the paper and placed it in my pocket before heading home. I'd have to sleep on it. Even though the place gave me the creeps, my pay at the hospital, if they hired me, would be around $30 an hour, and they were offering nearly 3 times that. The starting pay was $85 an hour, an insane amount for this area, let alone a new nurse. I closed my door and started my car. As the engine sputtered to life, I placed the pamphlet in my coat pocket and began to make my way home. I fiddled with the radio, searching for a station I liked, and saw that it was 4:13 a.m. There was something almost eerie on the drive back, a certain unsettling feeling that I couldn't quite place. Where Sarah once sat was now barren and cold, a lifeless effigy where the warmth of a dream had since faded. As I rounded a turn, I saw that building once more, though it seemed somewhat darker than it had earlier. As I drove past, I could have sworn I saw a nurse standing in the entrance, smiling at me. Glancing into my center mirror, I saw nothing but the building. "I have got to get some sleep," I muttered to myself, returning my gaze to the open road before me. Checking the center console, I saw that it was 4:15 a.m., which was odd, considering that from Sarah's house to here was approximately a 20-minute drive. I know for a fact I left her place around 4:13, so how could it only be 4:15? The sudden blaring of a horn released me from the overexhausted stupor I found myself in. I swerved to avoid the oncoming car, cursing under my breath as I did so. Glancing back down, I saw the time displayed was now 4:35 a.m. Was I seeing things in this half-awakened state? That had to be it. That was the only logical explanation. I reached down and turned the AC on full blast and shivered. I had never been particularly fond of the cold, but it was a far better alternative than winding up as a patient at the very hospital I planned to apply to. I finally arrived home, my eyes weighed down by the heavy bags that rested underneath them. I stumbled to the front door, hand fumbling in my pocket for my keys, finding them just as I reached it. I had a habit of putting the keys in my pocket after leaving my vehicle. Yawning, I found the right key and unlocked my door, relieved to be home and not in the back of an ambulance. The pamphlet lay all but forgotten in my coat pocket as I took it off, tossing it haphazardly on the couch. Sleep couldn't come soon enough. I kicked off my shoes and plopped down onto my bed, not bothering to do any of the nightly rituals I typically did prior to turning in for the night. Sleep overtook me before long, the pull of drowsiness a force far too powerful to resist. I opened my eyes, and I was there at New Haven, standing near the entrance. I turned my head to look behind me and saw that the only letters illuminated on the sign were H, E, and L. Scribbled to the right of the L was another L written in something red and dark. A cold wind blew across the entrance, causing me to shiver and pull my coat tightly over my scrubs. "Welcome home, Stephen." A voice carried over the wind, her voice, a voice that was soft and dangerous, akin to something almost but not quite human. I turned and saw the nurse I thought was staring at me on the drive home. She wore white scrubs and a white cap from a bygone era, complete with white shoes and a brown clipboard in her hands. Her brown hair was tied neatly into a bun, with not a single hair out of place. Her eyes were a shade of blue so bright and dazzling that it hurt to look at them. She wore 2 golden hoop earrings and had dark crimson lipstick applied perfectly to her lips. Plastered on her face was that same uncanny smile from before, as if she was trying to imitate what a normal smile would look like, but it was wrong. Excuse me," I stammered. Her smile stretched even further, revealing perfectly white teeth without a single blemish. "Welcome home, Stephen. We've been expecting you, and we are oh so excited to have you here with us, here with the family." As she finished talking, a barely audible cracking sound emanated from her mouth. "Home, family? What are you talking about? This isn't my home." "Are you sure?" She tilted her head unnaturally to the side, her smile growing even wider, wider than any human mouth should be. I took a step back and nearly tripped on something. "Do be careful now, dear. We wouldn't want you to get hurt." The wood of the clipboard she was holding groaned under an ever-tightening grip, small cracks beginning to form on it. I looked down to see what I had tripped on, but there was nothing there. Returning my gaze to the nurse, her once pristine scrubs were now yellowed with age, covered in splotches of dried blood. Her once neat hair was now unkempt and threatening to fall from her ruined cap. Despite this, her skin and teeth remained flawless, as if she were a porcelain doll, but that smile, it was far too wide, literally stretching from ear to ear. She took an awkward step forward, as if she were walking for the first time, her gaze piercing my very soul. "You are going to love it here, Stephen. Things have been so stale, and we are in desperate need of fresh blood on the team." I took another step back, not daring to take my eyes off of her. "Really, Stephen, you ought to be more aware of your surroundings," she said, raising a hand and pointing directly behind me. A blaring horn sounded from behind, startling me, and I turned to see the white headlights of the car I had nearly hit that night within feet of my face. I covered my head and screamed as the lights overtook me, the horn blaring once more and ringing. I jolted up into a seated position, rubbing my eyes. I was safe at home in my own bed with my alarm clock screaming at me to get up. Groggily, I reached over and shut it off, rubbing my eyes once more after the silence was no longer permeated by that annoying but effective ringing. Only a dream, I thought to myself. It was only a dream. Even so, my throat was hoarse from yelling, and I could taste a hint of iron in my mouth. Did I scream so hard that I caused myself to bleed? I swung my legs out of bed and walked into my bathroom, turning the light on as I did so. I turned on the sink, splashing my face a few times with cold water. I've had a bad dream or two in the past, but nothing like that. It felt so real, as if my life was in real, tangible danger. I turned off the faucet, dried my face in a towel I had hung on the door, and headed to the kitchen. I could really use some coffee. After brewing a pot and pouring myself a cup, I sat down at the dining room table, basking in the warm glow of the afternoon sun that filtered in through the blinds. As I set my cup down, I noticed the pamphlet on the table right next to me. Odd, I didn't recall removing it from my pocket last night. I stood up, picking up the pamphlet as I did so, and threw it into the trash. After that dream, there's no way in hell I'd ever work at that place, I muttered to myself. I grabbed my keys and made my way to the front door. The day was already halfway through, and I hadn't put in a single application. I decided I'd start with the hospital and go from there. As the sun started to set, I pulled into my driveway, my endeavors fruitless. Not a single place nearby was hearing, with the closest being an hour's drive from town. I unlocked my front door feeling defeated and headed on in. Driving far wasn't really an option for me, as I tended to get drowsy driving long distances. I plopped down onto my couch, staring blankly ahead. I suppose I could consider New Haven, night terror aside. I put my head in my hands and groaned. With such good pay and benefits, the likelihood of that position still being available was slim at best. Well, what do I have to lose? I asked myself, standing up to retrieve the pamphlet from the trash. I turned it over, scanning the paper for what I was looking for. Aha! There it was, the facility's phone number. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone and then dialed the number. It rang once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, with each ring my hopes sank further yet. Then there was a click, and a female voice emanated from the phone speakers. New Haven Nursing Facility, this is Vanessa. How may I help you? Hi, my name is Stephen. I recently graduated from my nursing program and was wondering if the position advertised in your pamphlet was still available, I said, holding my breath, bracing myself for the inevitable no that was sure to follow. Let me put you on hold and check with my Don. I'll be right back, she replied, her voice soon replaced by the typical jingles one often hears when put on hold. God, I was an idiot, I thought to myself. A golden opportunity was literally handed to me by the universe, and I let it slip all over a random dream. I cursed it in my head. I swore if by some miracle the position was still available, I'd take it without a second thought. If it wasn't, well, I'd have no choice but to apply outside of town. The music suddenly cut off and was followed by a click. Sam, it's Vanessa. Are you still on the line? It's Stephen, I corrected, but yes, I'm still here. Oh, sorry about that, she said somewhat meekly. It's okay, don't worry about it. I checked with my Don, and yes, that position is still available. Would you be available tomorrow at 4 p.m. for an interview? Yes, I said ecstatically, almost dropping my phone in the process. Great, she replied. In that case, we'll see you at 4 p.m. tomorrow at the main entrance. Please be sure to have your license number on hand so that we can ensure you are in good standing with the board, as well as 5 professional references. They can be from previous employers or instructors from an accredited program, but family members are not permitted. Does that sound all right with you? Yes, that won't be a problem, I replied. Okay, is there anything else I can help you with? She asked. No, that will be all. Have a great day, I said. You too, see you soon. The phone clicked as she hung up. Before I knew it, I was en route to the nursing home for my interview. I had laid out freshly ironed dress clothes the night before, complete with a tie and dress shoes, and had made sure to shave. I wanted to put my best foot forward for this interview. I pulled into the driveway, glancing at the sign as I drove past it. I breathed a sigh of relief. Hell was not inscribed on the sign. In fact, a maintenance worker was replacing the bulbs on the letters that were dark the last time I drove past the facility. I chuckled to myself, chalking it up to a mix of nerves and exhaustion. I pulled into a parking space labeled guest and stepped out of my car, locking the door behind me. I paused for a moment, readjusting my tie in my driver's side mirror before heading toward the building. I passed through 2 sliding glass doors and entered the main lobby, marveling at the interior, which was a stark contrast to the exterior. A chandelier hung from a vaulted ceiling, its light bathing the lobby in a warm glow. To the left of the doors was a sitting area with 3 comfortable-looking chairs, a padded end table, and a large TV monitor. More chairs, albeit wooden and courtroom-like in appearance, dotted the wall in front of me. To the right was a polished wooden desk where a secretary sat, typing away on her keyboard, her eyes transfixed on her screen. I approached the secretary, clearing my throat as I did so. "Hello," I said, flashing her a smile. "Can I help you?" she asked, looking up from her screen. "Good afternoon. My name is Stephen. I have an interview scheduled for this afternoon for the weekend night's charge nurse position." "One moment, please," she said, scooting her seat back and bending down over a filing cabinet she had just opened. She flipped through some papers for a minute before finding what she was looking for. She pulled a paper from a folder and handed it to me as well as a clipboard. "Please fill this out front and back and then return it to me when you're done." I thanked her and secured the paper to the clipboard before taking it to one of the wooden chairs. I pulled a pen from my pocket, scanning the paper as I did so. It was your standard application form, asking for the usual personal information: name, social security number, address, phone number, references, and so forth. I filled out the form, not thinking much of it, until I reached the bottom of the second page, where a small disclosure read: New Haven Healthcare is not responsible for any damage to property or loss of life or limb for failing to follow the facility rules. I hereby absolve New Haven and all its entities thereof from all legal responsibilities in the event I breach either my contract or the rules that will be provided to me upon employment by this facility. I acknowledge I have read and agree to the above. I held my pen in place over the line requiring my signature. Loss of life or limb, in a nursing home, and what did it mean by rules? I flipped the paper back over, scanning the front to see if anything else was out of the ordinary, but nothing was. It was just an application form. Just as I was about to get up to ask the secretary about the disclosure, her voice sounded from her desk. "Stephen, the Don is ready to see you now. If you haven't finished filling out the application, please do so and make sure I have it before you leave." "Right, where do I meet her?" The secretary gestured to a door directly behind her. "Through that door, just make sure you knock first." I thanked her and walked around the desk and to the door that was behind her. A small plastic plaque read, "Amy Don." I knocked 3 times and waited. After a brief pause, a voice said, "Come in." I opened the door and stepped inside her office. She was a middle-aged woman with a mix of blonde and gray hair, her green eyes resting behind thick spectacles. She sat behind a wooden desk with multiple folders full of documents, her face alight from the computer screen. Hung on the wall behind her were various degrees, from nursing schools to other certificates for continuing education. She lifted her hand to shake mine as I approached before gesturing for me to take a seat on one of the chairs in front of her. I thanked her and sat down, trying to push my nerves down my throat as I cleared it. "So you're Stephen, correct?" Her voice was soft but stern, like that of a schoolteacher accustomed to dealing with rowdy children. "Yes, ma'am, it's a pleasure to meet you." "Yes, likewise. My secretary informed me that you were applying for the weekend night position," she asked, more to herself than me. "That's correct." I wasn't aware we had an opening on that shift. I could have sworn I interviewed someone for that position a few months ago." "Oh," I said, my heart sinking. I couldn't help but wonder, was there some sort of mistake causing the job to be listed erroneously? "No need to worry. It's not uncommon for there to be miscommunications between the shifts. It's very likely that the person may have quit. This job isn't for everyone after all," she said, clicking her mouse. "I see that we do have a position available for the weekend night shift. Could you provide me with your license number, please?" "Of course," I said, reading her my number I had written down on a piece of paper earlier. "Okay, so it seems you are in good standing with the board. Do you have any experience in long-term care?" "This would be my first job, so aside from clinicals I do not. Will that be a problem?" "Oh no, not at all. It just means I'll need to have someone act as a preceptor for you during orientation." "Let me see," she said, clicking feverishly. "I would like you to train under Felicia and John for a few days each. Felicia works weekdays and John weekday nights. When will you be available to start?" I cleared my throat before replying, "I can start any time."